The story of the 7 books of Moses becomes even more compelling and more complex when we begin to trace their origins. What at first appears to be an ancient hidden scripture tied directly to Moses slowly reveals itself, under careful examination, to be a layered creation shaped by centuries of spiritual curiosity, cultural exchange, and human longing for control over the unseen. To understand where these books come from, we have to begin not in the time of Moses, but long after the events recorded in the Bible. The biblical Moses, as presented in Scripture, is not a magician in the occult sense. He is a servant of God, a lawgiver, and a prophet, through whom divine power is demonstrated, not a man who manipulates that power through secret formulas. Yet in later centuries, especially during the medieval period, traditions began to develop around biblical figures that expanded their roles into the realm of mysticism and hidden knowledge. One of the earliest influences on what would eventually become the 7 books of Moses can be traced to Jewish mystical traditions, particularly Kabbalah. Within Kabbalah, there was a deep interest in the names of God, the structure of creation, and the belief that divine language itself carried power. Certain texts explored how sacred names, when spoken or written correctly, could influence spiritual realities. However, even within authentic Jewish mysticism, such knowledge was treated with extreme caution and reverence, not as a tool for casual or personal control. As time moved forward into medieval Europe, especially between the 13th and 17th centuries, these mystical ideas began to merge with another growing tradition, what we now call grimoires. Grimoires were manuals of magic, often claiming ancient origins, filled with instructions on summoning spirits, creating protective charms, and accessing hidden forces. These texts were frequently attributed to legendary or biblical figures to give them authority. It was within this environment that the idea of Moses as a master of hidden arts began to take shape. By the time we reach the 18th and 19th centuries, particularly in German-speaking regions, the material that would be known as the 7 books of Moses began to take a more recognizable form. These were not ancient scrolls rediscovered, but compilations, collections of earlier mystical fragments, folk practices, Christian prayers, Hebrew names of God, and symbolic diagrams, brought together under a single title. Printers and publishers played a significant role here, as these books were produced for a wide audience, especially among rural populations who sought protection, healing, and spiritual assurance in uncertain times. The naming of the 7 books themselves reflects this constructed nature. They are presented as the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th books of Moses, creating the impression of a complete and sacred set. But unlike the structured and historically transmitted books of the Bible, these books vary widely in content depending on the edition. Some versions include additional sections, such as the 8th and 9th books of Moses, or related texts like the 6th and 7th books of Moses, which became particularly famous as standalone publications. What fills these books is a striking blend of elements. There are lists of divine names written in Hebrew or Pseudo-Hebrew, often mixed with Latin phrases and Christian invocations. There are seals, intricate symbolic designs said to represent spiritual authority over specific forces or entities. There are instructions for rituals meant to protect against enemies, heal illness, or influence outcomes. And throughout it all, there is a repeated claim that these powers originate from knowledge given to Moses himself. Historically, however, there is no credible evidence supporting that claim. Scholars widely agree that these texts are products of early modern Europe, shaped by the intersection of religious belief and folk magic. The attribution to Moses is symbolic, not historical, a way of anchoring the material in a figure universally recognized as powerful and close to God. What makes the origin of these books especially fascinating is how they traveled and transformed. German immigrants carried them to the Americas, where they found new life in different cultural settings. In parts of the Caribbean and among African diaspora communities, the books became intertwined with local spiritual traditions, sometimes used alongside other sacred practices. In these contexts, the 7 books of Moses were not merely texts. They were tools of survival, protection, and identity in environments marked by hardship and uncertainty. At the same time, their spread also reflects a deeper human pattern. Whenever people feel vulnerable, whether to illness, injustice, or the unknown, they often seek systems that promise control or protection. The 7 books of Moses offered exactly that, a structured way to engage with the spiritual world, to name it, to command it, and, at least in theory, to bend it toward human need. But this is where the tension becomes unavoidable. The biblical narrative consistently draws a line between divine authority and human attempts to wield that authority independently. The power seen in Moses' life in Scripture comes from obedience, not technique. It is given, not taken. The 7 books of Moses, by contrast, present a framework where power can be accessed through knowledge and ritual, where the right words, symbols, or actions can unlock spiritual influence. This difference is not small, it is foundational. It separates faith from control, relationship from manipulation. In the end, the origin of the 7 books of Moses tells a story not about Moses himself, but about the generations that came after him. It is a story of how sacred figures are reimagined, how spiritual ideas evolve as they move across cultures, and how the human desire for certainty can give rise to entire systems of belief. These books are not ancient revelations hidden from the world, but echoes of a long historical process, one that blends reverence with invention, faith with folklore, and truth with the powerful imagination of those who came searching for more than what was already given. Thank you so much for joining us today. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring teachings and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new post. Drop a comment below to let us know what you think and share this video with your family and friends. Remain blessed, and we'll see you next time.